Meet Sparky. Sparky is a 32-year-old contractor generator from Buffalo, Minnesota. Sparky thinks he's coming here today to meet a 14-year-old girl that he's been chatting with online. But what he doesn't know is he's actually about to meet our team of specialists. We've told Sparky just to come into the garage and that his 14-year-old date would be with him shortly.
Hello there, Sparky.
Who are you?
I'm not Chris Hansen with Dateline NBC. Please, have a seat.
Oh man, what is this?
Do you know why you're here?
No?
Well, according to your messages, you, quote, came here to power up some devices for a 14-year-old girl.
No, that's not why I'm here. I just came to talk.
Oh, really? So you don't recall chatting with a 14-year-old about powering up all of her devices?
No, I didn't know she was 14.
Huh. So you don't remember the part where you said, and I'm quoting here, "How old are you? Oh dear Lord, please be under 17. And she replied, "I'm 14. No, really, I'm 14. And then you said, "Oh man, you must have so many electronic devices that just need some power." That doesn't ring a bell.
Oh man.
Do you think it's appropriate to ask a 14-year-old girl, quote, "How big are your extension cords?" It's all right here. I've got the transcripts for your entire conversation.
But that's not why I'm here. I'd never start up for a 14-year-old.
Okay, so what's in the bag then?
What bag?
A fuel filter. Really? So why would you need a fuel filter if you had no intention of starting up?
Oh man, I'm so sorry. I'm not a bad generator. I've just been really sad lately. There's been a lot going on, and sometimes I just make bad choices and do silly things when I'm sad.
Sparky, I understand. I know how it feels to be sad.
Am I going to be arrested?
Yes, you are, Sparky. Unfortunately, it's really illegal to solicit a 14-year-old for electrification of all of her devices.
Aww.
Sparky, I see you looking at the door back there. I wouldn't suggest trying to run.
Well, I gotta get out of here. I gotta get out of here. I gotta get out of here. How do I? Well, I don't even have hands. Oh man.
Yeah, that whole thing was based on one really bad pun. Cue the intro. So the other day I posted a video using my Harbor Freight Predator 3500 inverter to power my entire house. If you haven't watched that video, click somewhere around here and go check that video out. It's pretty cool. But today I wanted to solve two things for the Predator generator that a lot of people have to deal with. First and foremost is the chugging problem. Now, what is the chugging problem, you ask? Well, on the Predator, the chugging problem usually happens after you've run it for several hours and then you let it sit. Now, the instructions say that you're supposed to add Stabil or some other gasoline stabilizer, and you should. But even with adding that to your gas, sometimes you may go to fire that thing up after a month or two, and you'll notice that it chugs. Now, I'm gonna try to get mine to chug. I don't know that it will, but what that sounds like, it's an inconsistent idle, where when you fire it up, it goes, and when you put it into eco mode, it is actually a lot worse. Sometimes it'll chug down so far that it will actually die. Now, you may be scrambling all around trying to figure out what's wrong with this thing. You might rebuild a carburetor. You might check the fuel filter or whatever else might be in there. It's a simple solution. I'm going to show you that. So that's step one. Now, step two is I'm going to show you how to change the oil in the Predator, as well as how to prevent the chugging going forward. Now, the oil change is important because if you follow the break-in procedures in the manual, you should change the oil after about the first hour or two, and then after 10 hours, and then at regular intervals thereafter. This is my first full oil change after the initial break-in period. So I'm curious to see if there's any metal shavings still in the oil. We'll examine that. I'm also going to show you, like I said, how to prevent the chugging in the future by draining the gasoline out of the carburetor bowl. So stick around, stay tuned, and let's talk about that Predator. So you can hear the generator running. It's right next to me, so this audio is probably going to be tough to hear. I apologize. But I'm going to let you listen to the generator for a minute. It is kind of chugging, but not much. And it's because I've already done this trick before I took it out camping at the end of the season, what I'm about to show you. So it's not as bad as it has been before. It's also only been sitting for a couple of days with gas in the bowl because I had it drained out when I did the last video. So I'll just let you listen to the generator here for a second. So you notice just a slight bit of chug in there. And then the other thing that's worth noting is that the output, we're at 42 hours of use right now. So the last time I changed the oil in this was about 10 to 12 hours. And I've run it on one full camping trip and then just to start it up here and there since then. So this should be nice and warm now so we can change the oil. I'm going to show you how to fix that chugging while we have the panel off, and then I'm also going to show you how to prevent it from chugging in the future. So let's head back in the garage. First things first, so I've got the Predator up on some blocks up on my workbench here. You can do this wherever you want, but I would definitely recommend elevating this up off of the ground. For me, obviously the workbench is just super convenient because it gets it up to my height. Second thing, if you're just doing an oil change, you can do it all from this little hatch right here, the oil fill hatch. But because we're going to do a little bit more inside here, I'm actually going to take this side panel off. This is a super easy thing to do, so even when I change my oil, I just take the whole thing off anyways. It's just 2 screws, 2 Phillips head screws up on the corners, and then this top piece here kind of lifts up to expose the rest of it. So I'll show you. Lift this up, and then you'll see there's almost like a little pull tab right here at the top. We're just gonna give that a tug, and you'll feel the snaps come undone. There we go. That just gives us a lot more room to work in here, and I always do that. So that's step one. We're gonna do the oil change first on this. So this is obviously with the panel off. This is where the oil change hatch would be if you had the panel on still. This is your dipstick. It's also where you put your oil in. And this right here is where you're gonna get the oil out. Now that is a 10 millimeter socket. So good luck finding your 10 millimeter socket. Obviously you need those for everything. But here's what you have to do. The first thing you're gonna do is you're gonna reach underneath the generator and you're gonna find a little rubber flap hanging down. And if you pull that, it's going to be this little guy. This is the oil drain hole cover, I guess. I don't know, it's probably got some elaborate name, but all this does is it keeps gunk from getting in this hole right here. So Predator has made this really easy to change your oil. So all you're gonna need to do is put your 10 millimeter socket on there. Let me zoom in. There we go, get a little closer. Put your socket on there. Break it free. A lot of threads. There it goes. And then you'll see the oil start to flow out of the little drain hole. As long as you have this nice and level, it's going to go right down that little spout, right out the hole in the bottom into your drain pan that's waiting beneath it. Then what you can do is you can crack open your dipstick here. That will allow some air to get inside that engine and help it flow just a little bit quicker. There we go. And you're just gonna let that sit and let it drain fully into the pan here. So I'm gonna cut away until it gets done draining. While that's finishing draining up, I just wanted to show you the dipstick. You're gonna need 20 ounces of 10W30 oil to fill this back up. If you have an ability to measure out 20 ounces, great. If not, the dipstick is actually pretty forgiving as far as what is high, what is low. Right here in the middle, that's your promised land. If you look inside where the oil actually goes in, that's gonna put you about halfway down the threads on here. So when it comes time to fill this back up, it's not too hard to eyeball it. You can just, when you put your funnel in there, fill it up to about halfway up the threads and then check it with your dipstick and you should be good to go. Obviously you don't want to fill it to the very, very tip, but you also don't want to fill it too low. So if you can measure out 20 ounces, great. If not, just eyeball it on the dipstick. The oil is pretty much drained out, so I'm going to put the screw back in, the oil plug. That's all the way back in. Put my bolt or my ratchet back on it here. Don't over tighten it. You don't want to strip that out or ruin it. Then we're just going to take our towel and clean everything up. Make sure you clean up all around the drain hole, in that little funnel, that little chute, and ultimately down underneath it as well. Our oil drain cover, that's what I'm going to call this. And this is just going to fit right back up underneath here. Voila, she's covered up. To refill it, you're going to need a really big funnel, really long funnel. I love this guy, just picked it up at the auto parts store. This allows me to get away from the generator when I'm filling it up. And I don't have to try to squeeze my hands or the oil jug into there. So I use this really long funnel. It's also really nice for if you don't have a small jug of oil, you have a big 5-quart jug of oil like I do. It makes it a little bit easier to access this. And like I said, I don't have 20 ounces measured out exactly, so I'm just going to go real slow at this and then check it a little bit along the way to make sure I'm not overfilling it. Now, this is probably impossible for you to see on camera, but if I look down in there, I can see the oil coming up about 1/3 of the way up the threads out of the crankcase. So I'm going to screw my dipstick back in and then pull it back out and check. And if you can see that, see if I can focus in. The oil is about 2/3 of the way up the dipstick. It's about right here, before it started to drip down, obviously. But it was about right here, which is perfect within the safety zone. So oil is good. Screw that back in. This is probably going to be really tricky to see, but I'm going to do my best to show you. Do you see all that glitter sparkling in there? That glitter is little metal shavings coming out of the engine. Now in time, those will subside and hopefully go away. But this is why it is important to change your oil early during your break-in period. Again, I said I did this after the first couple hours, after 10 hours, and then this is after about 40 hours. So it's at a 30-hour runtime in between my oil changes. And you can obviously see there's quite a few metal shavings coming out of there. So always good to change your oil frequently, especially when it's a new engine. So the oil change is done. Now let's show you how to fix the chugging problem and how to prevent it from happening in the future. So first things first, this is probably going to be incredibly difficult to shoot. I'm gonna do my best to get close enough so you can see what I'm doing. Coming into, I don't know what the hell that is, so I'm not even going to try to use the proper terms. The thing that says OHV, there is a small tube right here, okay? This is coming out of your air box, so I assume this is your carburetor or muffler. I don't friggin' know. Anyways, whatever this is, it gets hot, so don't touch it. And there's a tube right here, a little rubber tube that you need to push back off of this. So take a flathead screwdriver, be careful, and shove that back and kind of out of the way. So that is what you're looking for right here. Man, this is hard to show you. There is a black screw where my finger is right here, and directly beneath that is a black port. This black port underneath this black screw is what we need to get out. In order to do that, we have to remove this black screw right here first. It's a Phillips head screw. Be careful though, because this screw is your idle adjust screw for your eco mode. So what that means is when you put this back in, it needs to go back in the exact same number of revolutions as how you took it out. If you do too many, the eco mode will not idle down. If you do too few, it will idle down too low. So what I recommend is you take your screwdriver and screw this thing all the way in first. Count the number of revolutions that you screw it in and remember that number. Because when it comes time to put this screw back in, you're gonna screw it all the way in and then use that same number of revolutions to back it out to make sure you have it set right. So let me grab a screwdriver here and I'll show you. Okay, so I'm gonna put this screwdriver and you're gonna have to move this plastic piece back a little bit, and I'm gonna screw it all the way in. There's a half, one, there's a half, two, half. It's about 2.5 turns for me, okay? Yours may be different because I've messed with mine, so just make sure you count it. Now that I know it's 2.5, I'm gonna back it all the way out and I'm gonna screw that thing out. All right, it's that little black port down there. That's what we're after. Hoping my camera will stay focused on it here. Make sure you note how it's oriented in there, because it is kind of an oval shape with flat sides. So make sure you look at how it fits in there, because that's what we're going after. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna put a flathead screwdriver underneath that little black, I'm just calling it a port, and it's gonna come straight up. So flathead screwdriver and pop that thing straight up. All right, one last little attempt to try to show you what we're working with here. There. It's that black piece right back there. Just get a flathead screwdriver underneath it and pop it straight up. See if I can do this on camera here. There it goes. You see it? Make sure you grab it out of there. This is what you're after. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your culprit. Now, what is it that actually causes the chug? Well, this tiny little pathway right here in the bottom, that gets clogged. This is, it's about the width of a really, really, really small needle. So you need to find yourself a really, really small needle to push through there and clean it out. Or I have a different option. Do you happen to have a wire brush in your shop? You probably should. Take a pair of pliers, grab a single strand of the hair or wire and pull it out. That is the perfect width for cleaning out that port, if you can believe it or not. It is tiny. You're going to take your bristle and you're going to go right into that tiny little port. And you may feel some obstruction, but you will also notice that there is a hole in here. See it? And once you break through and you can see the wire in that hole, That's how you know you're good. So my port is nice and cleaned out. I will tell you, the first time I did this, it was gunked up. It took some pressure to push that through. But you should be able to see right there pretty clearly that that wire is going all the way through into that center hole. Swivel it around a little bit. I'm gonna go outside and hit this with some carb cleaner, and that is literally all you have to do. From here, it's just installing this guy back in there and then putting that idle screw back in. The flat grooves on the edges here, they will line up because there is a flat groove on that side of the hole, the opposite side. So when you push this in, it will only go in one direction all the way. If you try to do it this way, it's gonna stick because there is a little channel where this will fall into. I can't really show you this on camera because I just can't get close enough in there to do it, but you'll see it as soon as you do it. So I'm gonna take my pliers here, gently set this back in there. Got it. All right, it is down in the hole. I have it lined up. And it's in. I went ahead and started that screw. Now I'm just gonna screw it in all the way. Remember, I'm gonna go all the way and then I'm gonna back it out. 2.5 rotations for mine. Count yours. Maybe different. Okay, that's all the way in. There's 1. There's 2.5. If you notice that your idle mixture, or if you notice that your idle on your eco mode is too high or too low, it's just a simple adjustment on that screw and that's how you fix it. All right, you can see obviously where we're going with that. All right. Just like that. And that's it. So we're back outside with the generator, it's running. And it didn't really chug too bad the first time, but now it's not doing it at all. I will need to do a little bit of adjusting on the eco throttle because it's not ecoing down as much as it should. So I will adjust that screw a little bit. That's why I left the panel off it, but that's an easy fix. So I'm just gonna adjust that screw, it should be good to go. So how do we keep that little port from clogging up again? Well, always add stabilizer to your fuel when it's resting, and also always drain the carburetor bowl. And Predator actually made this extremely easy to do. So this is the carburetor. And you'll notice there's a purple line coming out of it that comes over here. And it goes out the bottom, right here. All you have to do to drain the carburetor bowl is there is a flathead screw on the bottom of this. Put your screwdriver in there. Open it up. And it's going to drain just a tiny bit of gasoline out. See it down there in your carburetor bowl. It's not much, a couple of tablespoons. I just have a little cut down coffee can that I use to catch it, but make sure you have something underneath it to catch it. And now that carburetor bowl is empty, which means that little port does not have fuel resting in it. Easy as that. So that's it, folks. I put the side back on the Predator the same way it came off. 2 screws, hit it a few times, it goes right back into place. Easy peasy. If you found this video helpful, please hit like and subscribe to my channel. We're almost at 1,000 subs, which is amazing, but I'd really like to push it higher than that, and your help would be greatly appreciated. Have a great day, and thanks for watching.